So yeah, the job hunting stuff. One of the reasons why I really enjoyed hanging out with Kai and Dan, or like I guess Kai in general, but like looking forward to hanging out with these guys in the future, is because we're in a similar field of work, similar departments. Them being in sound and me being in post editing, we're still in the umbrella of post production. It's good to hear their perspective on things and things that they hear versus what I've been hearing. Kai was working on Into the Spider-Verse, and then they pushed the premiere date back. They ended up letting everybody go that was working on it until a later time. So yeah, he's been swimming just like I have and floating. You know what I'm saying? It's gotten to the point where we got to pretty much consider unemployment. Yeah, so I've been thinking about doing that too, but at the same time, I feel like I could be using my time better. I say this all because another thing that I'm hearing is, this summer, or summers in general, are pretty much kind of dead zones for post-production right now, apparently. And this one in particular, just because, we're still coming up out of that pandemic, and it's pretty competitive right now. A lot of us are getting beaten out by older, more experienced people. And so, yeah, I guess I'll tell the stories. It's kind of suck, but I'll start with my assistant directing stories. All of this sucks harder because of the connections that I feel like I've made and the way I thought things would go, and the idea of it's not the friends you make, it's the hands you shake. But sometimes it is the friends you make, and that's kind of the route that I tend to go without even really intending to go that way. I get these job opportunities sent to me personally by an assistant director, and they're telling me to make sure when I reach out to the job recruiter to let them know that the assistant director, they're backing me up. I sent my resume to the recruiter people, and I let them know who sent me. I did that twice, and there was 2 gigs, and I didn't hear anything back. The reason why I separated that story from the others is because that's assistant directing and in front of the camera, on stage, versus editorial. It's production versus editorial. So I got these other gigs. In 2019, I was at a Disney Network mixer, and it was cool. I went with Shari and everything for the Academy Gold program. Get there, it was weird, but like I was still in college, but for the most part, I think it was a job mixer. And long story short, I ended up meeting the vice president of Disney Animation post-production. And it was great because she was working on Frozen 2. And at the time, I got my acting mentor, Sterling K. Brown, and he's in Frozen 2. That was awesome. It was great to be able to talk to her and have something to talk about. And, she was saying how much my APIT certification kind of matters, moving forward. That was in 2019. Fast forward, Shari again can't do this job, so she throws me the lob. It turns out this is an executive assistant job for the VP at Disney Animation, post-production. And I was in the interview, and I didn't really even put it all together. A lot of the information was emerging as I was realizing what the interview was about. So my interviewer was, oh wow, this all kind of makes sense, and oh Shari, whoa. So it was all just looking good, and then it takes a minute for the interview to happen. Number 2 is, rarely is there ever interview number 2, because usually it's interview number 2, and that's because we want you. Interview number 2 happens right along when I was getting another opportunity for post-production coordinator for Viacom and Awesomeness TV. Making really good connections with Billy, the post-production coordinator and producer for Nickelodeon and Viacom for Danger Force and Henry Danger and stuff. He hooked me up with the vice president of post-production for Viacom and Awesomeness TV. I felt like that was great. I felt like, I was just doing my thing, making connections. The post-production coordinator hooks me up with Sean and sends my resume, and he's telling me don't respond to him until he responds to us. So then I didn't, and then I ended up getting a job offer from somebody else telling me that it was from Sean. Sean gave them my resume when I still haven't spoken words with Sean at all. That was kind of cool. I was excited, but I was caught off guard. I wanted to say yes in the middle of that interview, but I told them I wanted to make sure that things were good with the Disney people before I said yes. And so she said, yeah, I'll give you till the next day at like 12, right? I go ahead and do that. I have the interview finally, and for the Disney animation interview, the executive assistant, it was great. Before I could say anything, Bernice remembered me, and the production coordinator was like surprised that we knew each other. She was like, yeah, her hair was shorter, mine was longer, all this stuff, and it was great. The thing was, I was able to tell her that I went from getting him Sterling K. Brown as my acting mentor to asking to voice a character in the short and everything, and kind of told them my story, and that I'm green and I'm ready to help and everything. They ultimately were like, yeah, it's a production assistant job. The executive part's just because you're working with the VP, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that, and then it's just pretty much the animation aspect that I was missing. But other than that, the production coordinator would ask, is my short animated, right? After all the stuff that I was said, and I was like, well, no, it's not, but I have other ideas. So it was a good interview until I kind of revealed that I had another opportunity. Yeah, they didn't want to waste any more time. And it felt like the other opportunity was saved for me anyway. Even though that the energy changed, I wasn't tripping. I mean, I think the cameras are about to stop right quick, but yeah, so ultimately I didn't get the job in that same day, and I had the interview. It hurt more than I realized. So I didn't have time to process that, because literally the next day, the same day when I was supposed to check back in with the lady for Viacom, she ends up giving the job to another person that's got more, it's more qualified. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. Kind of a tease. It was a two swords situation. Swords stabbing situation. It was a big oof. Those are my biggest connections. Those are my strongest. Those made the most sense. Those made the most sense.